Hello, hello, hello again. Okay, we got another video. Oh, I want to start this video in the background. Where'd it go? OBS, help me. Okay, it's kind of like OB1, help me, right? Wow. Anyway, okay, so a new painting. I did this painting. Oh, darn, when did I do this painting? It was in 2024. I think November, December 2024. It was part of a series of paintings that I was doing for or with a mentorship with Greg Manchester through the Smart Art School or smarterartschool.com. So check that out. It's actually fantastic. So I was doing a lot of these really small paintings. This is actually 5x8, maybe 6x9. No, I think it's a 5x8 painting. And what I was doing was removing any kind of, friction between me and getting started on my artwork. You know, many times we sit there and we start thinking, oh, well, what am I going to paint? You know, that's not the right image. Maybe we're doing landscapes and we're out in the landscape and we're looking around for like 6 hours trying to find the perfect landscape to paint. And we don't get any painting done. So I cut all that out and I said, you know what? I like figures. I like portraits. I like me. I like my life. I like, you know, painting stuff that I'm familiar with. So I just started picking out a bunch of candid photos that me and my wife had taken on trips. Either she took the photos or I took the photos or selfies or whatever. And it didn't matter. It did not matter how good, quote unquote, good or bad the photos were. In fact, the photos that were the worst were the photos that I wanted to actually deal with, because that's where the challenges lied, you know, where it would get me out of my comfort zone, would take me into places that I've never gone before, like really weird lighting. I don't know, distorted faces, because, you know, when you do a selfie, it's a very like wide angle lens. So there's distortions on the end. And I would revel in that. And this is one of those paintings that I wanted to talk about. My wife's taking a picture of herself in an aquarium. And it's one of those aquariums where you're surrounded by, actually, let me show the image. It's, you know, we're very visual, so this is probably a way to do it. So here's the original image. So she's right next to this aquarium, and look at the light on her face. Like in the center of her face is the darkest area, and it's kind of like this purple tone. And then on the right side, our right, is green, like a bluish green. And on the left side is a kind of warmer, coolish color. Super bright in the background with the rays. This painting is called Rays. And then, I mean, the composition is just a selfie. Who cares, right? It's just there. And then, you know, the weird shapes of the fish at the top, you're like, I don't really know what's going on there, that kind of thing. Oh, let me pause this video real quick, because I talked about this once in my other video. What I'm doing here is I'm putting, oh, there it is, GAC 100, which is a clear medium, a clear acrylic medium all over the paper. I think it's like an Arches oil paper. So I draw it out with graphite, and then I put the GAC 100 on there so the paper doesn't soak up the oil tremendously. And it's a little bit more of a slick surface. And then I let that dry, that kind of thing. I let it dry overnight. So that's what's happening there. But I love this image. And I was like, man, there I am. I'm like waving it around. I'm painting it on the back too. I'm waving it around for it to dry. But I also did the back of it so that the paper doesn't bow that much. And you can tell it's the next day because the lighting's different. But anyway, I love this image because there's going to be a tremendous challenge with the light on it. Not only that, if you look at my palette that I just set out, oh, and there's the value chart too, which, you know, is really wonderful to deal with. And I'll talk about that for a second. The palette I set out, and the video is going really quick, so I'm trying to, you know, speed up and talk faster, which is probably good because I talk too much anyways. So the palette is a Zorn palette, which is titanium white, yellow ochre, cadmium red, and ivory black. And all those colors I have on this palette here are from Gamblin, I believe. Actually, I think most of them are Winsor Newton student grade. and they work fantastically. I love them. They go to gray really quickly. In the middle, I have what I put down there. I have a value chart from 0 to 10, so 11 different colors. And my goal on this painting, let me go back to the image, the original image. I wanted to stay really high in the value range or really low. I put 10 as white. I think a lot of people put 10 as black. But anyway, so I think I stayed between 10 and 7 on here. So, or 10 and 6, maybe. I'm not sure. We'll see. I'll keep playing it. Let's go. Let's go, Chris. Let's keep going. Go, go, go. So I wanted to stay, and you can see I'm testing directly on the, like I'm pointing at it, like you can see, right? Like you can see me pointing where I'm pointing. I wish you could see that. Anyway, I'm testing my darkest value, which is 6. So I mixed up my darkest value. I think I'm going to get some more white. There you go. Put more white out. And that is the darkest value I have. And actually, I just mixed up a warmer color for inside her mouth that I think is a little bit darker. So I got a little bit darker than 6, maybe up into 5. So I established my darkest dark, and my whitest white is the paper or titanium white. You can see I put some titanium white down there where the ray is to the right of her eyes. And that is the lightest light I have. And I'm going to work within those value ranges. So not only, I mean, it was a super challenging painting, but I think it turned out wonderfully. Not only am I working with like a crazy image, and not only am I working with a very limited palette, but I'm also working within a very limited value range. It's a fantastic challenge, any three of those, any one of those, to really up your game on art, right? On painting. Up your game on art, right? Just generally on art. And the light here is just kind of blown out. I mean, her face is, the paint I'm putting on there is a lot darker than probably what you're seeing. But all I'm doing is just mixing up colors that I see and kind of placing them down. The one thing I was doing with these paintings was getting pretty exact in the drawing, so I could just place the colors where I wanted them, and then afterwards deal with like edges and things like that, maybe adjust the colors as they go. And a lot of these paintings went really quickly. I would tell you, like, I could finish a painting in a day. Maybe I would draw it out like the night before, which would take probably 30 minutes to an hour, and then 2.5 to 3 hours on the painting itself, especially a 5x8, which is pretty small. It's like the size of my hand. Those were great. And the wall would fill up really quickly. And I got a visual of that here. So I was just doing a bunch of paintings of photos that we have taken, bad photos, good photos. It didn't matter. I mean, none of the photos were really bad, okay? They were bad, I guess, in the sense that they wouldn't be published in Time magazine or National Geographic because they were just so randomly done, very, selfies aren't put in like popular publications, so they would be called bad. But when you look at these photos, when you look at just the randomness that can happen there, and I fixed the light, so that's a little bit closer to what you'll see at the end. When you pick these photos, you get a challenge, a wonderful challenge within the photos where you really kind of stretch yourself as a painter, and you begin to understand color and value and composition and everything so much better because you're dealing with something so different than what you've ever dealt with before. I think I've grown during this 2-month period where I was just doing all these, selfies and crappy photos. I keep saying crappy, but they were great photos. I love the paintings. I learned so much. Oh, here's another thing. I mean, look at how blue the painting or the image is, but I don't have a blue on my palette. All I have is black and white, and the ivory black is a warm black. So there's no way I could get even a very blue gray. But you deal with what you have. You say, okay, my bluest blue is ivory black plus white with a certain mixture. My darkest dark is 6 or 5. That's as dark as I can get. And then you compress within that. And you can still make a wonderful painting out of that. The challenge is what makes you an even better artist. Actually, I wrote it on the side there, 4 to 7 is where I was working from. So values 4 to 7. The great thing about the value chart there, you could probably see it. There's these little ticks. So you have the 4 and then the value, and then there's these little colors. And I just did one there right next to the value on that chart in the center, where I was kind of testing all my mixtures to make sure that it was 4, 5, 6, and 7. It was, or 8. I think I did some 8s as well. It was around that value range. And, you know, you can make up those charts super quickly, and it doesn't matter. I mean, it's on cardboard, and you can test, 20 different paintings with all these little color dots that you put on there to stay within this like value range and really get better at mixing and seeing values while you're painting. So a lot of fun doing that. It's a challenge, but the moral of the story is there's no bad photos. There is no bad photos. All there is just challenging photos, more interesting photos, things that you're super interested in or less interested in, or other ones that you pick out that, you just have to figure out something to do with. But definitely no bad photos. That's one thing that I figured out when doing all these paintings was, I wonder what I can do with this. It doesn't have the best lighting. It's got some strangeness in the background. It has like, a sun ray going right across the face, things like that. And I think that's the end of the painting. Is that the end of, yeah, that's the end of the video. So there's the end of the painting. And that's how it was finished. Let me give you, there you go. That's a better image. You can see the texture and everything of the paper and of the paint in the image there. But that's the finished painting as I took a picture of it. Wow, the video doesn't really show like all that detail and stuff. So I'm glad I showed you the final image. But again, challenge yourself. Don't worry about finding the best photo, the best place in the landscape, the best setup for your still life, the best, lighting scenario, the best pose. Stop all that. Remove it. Find something mundane. Find something quote unquote terrible or bad, and just go for it and say, you know what? I wonder what I can do with this, and challenge yourself. So there's a challenge for you. And you don't have to do, a hard photo, limited palette, and limited value range like I did. You could try it. I think it's a lot of fun. Talk about making a painting really interesting, doing all that kind of stuff. You don't have to do that. You could do one at a time and kind of work your way up to it. But yeah, the most important thing here, and I say multiple times, and I think I'm going to start it out every video like this, but the most important thing is to paint, is to get to work, to actually create something, to express yourself, and make sure you do that first and try and remove all the friction between you and getting started and making what you love. And I think maybe if I can remember, I'll start starting a lot of videos by asking you, have you painted today? Have you started your artwork today? Have you done something? And if the answer is no, stop the video and go start some artwork. Be creative, express yourself. That's number 1. And then come back, watch the video. Okay. Thank you so much for watching. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.